My name is Sid, everybody. Siddharth Kalelkar, but everybody calls me Sid. Um, I'm an agile guy, like most of you are. So there's no difference between you and me. Of course, we have Vijay, who's much more qualified and certified than I am. So goes without saying. Um, and that's it. I mean, I'm just an ordinary agile guy, like most of you. But yes, maybe the difference is that I'm an old man. I use a good quality hair dye, so you can't make out. That's a separate issue. But loads of experience there. I've been in the agile space for only the past 14 years of my life. So there's people who are far more experienced than I am. But anyways, so shall we start, Vijay, or
Yes,
do we
please.
still want to wait for some people? There's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight or nine people, eight people
Thank
around
you.
there. Okay. Okay. So before I start, um, I would like to say a few things. The first thing I would like to say, you are my audience, but the presentation I'm going to give is not for you. The presentation I'm going to give is for your audience because you are going to go into an organization which was traditionally Prince 2 and Waterfall and all the old systems, and you are trying to introduce Agile there. So the presentation I'm going to make, please remember, is not you are my audience for this session, yes, but you are not my target audience. This presentation is for your target audience. All right? That's number one. The second thing to remember is when you go into an organization, yeah, which means they have called you in and they said, hey, introduce Agile, introduce Agile to our organization. We want to go Agile, da 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 da. When you do this first time presentation, who do you have as your audience? Okay. So in any organization, there are three layers. There is the top layer, we'll call them the cream. There's the middle layer, and there's the grassroots level. Now, in any organization, the grassroots levels, what do I mean by the grassroots levels? Your developers, your QA guys, your business analyst, da 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 da. Okay, whether that's a front end developer, back end developer, interface, that doesn't matter. These are basically the grassroots guys. They will love Agile, right? So they are not really your target audience. The top, yeah, the C suite, the CEO, the CTO, da 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 da. Remember, the decision to go agile was taken there, right? They are the guys who made the decision to go agile. They are the guys who made some budget. Yeah, okay, let's hire Sid, let's hire Vijay, let's hire so, and we want to introduce agile, right? You don't need their buy-in; they're already invested into agile. It's the middle layer which is really your target audience. Now, what is the middle layer? The middle layer is your project managers, your program managers, your PMO, and these are all guys who have been traditional Prince 2 and Waterfall for years and years and years. In any aspect of life, not just organizations, it is the middle layer that is the most important. Never forget that. You have an iron bar, an iron rod. If you want to bend it, where do you bend it? In the middle. You have a rope. You want to, if that rope is going to break, where is it going to break? In the middle. So it's the middle that is going to make or break your environment. Keeping this in mind, Now I shall begin. I call this as an Agile awareness workshop. Yeah, this is how you present it to your audience. Our title was Why Agile? Why do we want to go Agile? So when you have your audience in front of you, you start with that. The Agile awareness workshop. Why the hell do we want to go Agile? Why go Agile? Oh, IBM went Agile, so we should go Agile. The neighbor down the street went Agile, so we should go Agile. My competitor went Agile, so we should go Agile. Why should we go Agile? Just why the hell? Now I go into an organization for the first time, and I've been called there, hey, make our organization Agile. And I ask them the first question. So where are you in your Agile journey? Because I'm trying to figure out what is their level of Agile maturity. So where are you in your Agile journey? 9 times out of 10, the answer that I get is, oh, we are evolving, right? We are evolving, which usually means he ain't got a clue. He doesn't know what's going on. But that's a nice political answer to say, oh, we are evolving. Now, I don't understand evolution very well. Okay, so let us start with that. Let us start with evolution. And I started studying evolution. I said, what does evolution mean? Where did evolution start from? What the hell do we mean by evolution? When I go down into history and I go down into the origins of our planet, where did evolution start from? And I come across this huge big creature. That's me. That's just to introduce myself. So we're talking about evolving and we're talking about evolution. And where does evolution start from? When I go back and search and I try to find the origins of evolution, and I come across this huge big creature, there you go. This creature lived 65 million years ago. 65 million years ago. It's called a dinosaur, right? And he lived 65 million years ago. There can't be anything older than that, right? Now, 65 million years ago, this guy lived on this planet. By his sheer size and his sheer weight, this creature dominated the planet. He was the biggest creature on the planet. There was nobody bigger than him. There was nobody heavier than him. Yeah. So this guy absolutely dominated the planet. This was 65 million years ago. Now, half that time, 32 million years ago, we started with 65 million years ago, and 32 million years ago, this guy, this huge big creature, started to shrink in size and lose weight. Yeah, I wish I could do that. But, well, I am what I am. But this guy started to shrink in size and lose weight, right? And a bit later, so from 65, we've come down to 32 million years. About 11 million years ago, this fellow started to grow feathers. Now, there's a big debate out there that why he grew feathers, whether it was just for, the weather was changing, the climate was changing, and it was to keep himself warm. That's one part of the debate. The other part is whether those feathers were there to attract a mate or whatever. But this guy, no longer, we don't see him, do we? You've been to your local zoo, there's no longer a dinosaur there. You can see tigers and lions and whatnot, but no dinosaurs. So we say, oh, the dinosaur has become extinct. No, not really. Not really. The dinosaur has not become extinct. What has happened? So the dinosaur from 65 million years ago on this sheer size and weight has transformed, has changed. And today we have the direct descendant of the dinosaur, the common house sparrow. Can you believe it? This huge creature, this guy which was the biggest, the heaviest creature on the planet, He's not extinct, not really extinct. He has transformed. And the common house sparrow is a direct descendant of the dinosaur, a direct descendant. Can you believe it? Right? So that is how evolution happens. That is how evolution takes place. And what I want to tell all of you today is that is how what we progress with Agile. We're not doing things any different, just we are doing it a bit differently. So we need to transform ourselves because if we remain the dinosaur, yes, we will become extinct, right? Like I said, you don't see the dinosaur in the zoo any longer. You have to go to the Natural History Museum to see that. So if we don't become nimble and quick like the sparrow, we will become extinct. Okay, evolution goes on. Now this guy looks a bit more like one of my ancestors, doesn't he? So this was the next stage of evolution. We started, as Charles Darwin discovered, we are descendant from the apes. This is where we started with. At some point down the line, what happened? The brain, nature changed the brain. The way this guy thought, the way this guy behaved, the way this guy lived started to change. What happened? What changed? So the same guy who was using his hands to swing from tree to tree. You remember? Apes used to go on trees. They became from the ground, they went onto trees and they were swinging from tree to tree. And the next step of evolution. So, this was the next step of evolution where those same hands, the hands which we were using for swinging from tree to tree, that same hands are now being used to pull out plants and eat them. Yeah, as you can see in this picture, those are the next step of the descendancy where this creature has learned instead of swinging from tree to tree, he's using the same hands to pull out plants and eat them. Right? Remember what I said? We're not doing anything different, we are just doing things differently. It's the same hands. The same hands which were used for swinging from tree to tree, those same hands are being used to pull out plants and eat them. We go a step further, right? We saw those two steps. Let us see the next step. There you go. Now, that same creature has learned to pick up stones. Remember, he was swinging from tree to tree. From there, he's learned how to pull out plants and eat them. And now he has learned that, hey, I can pick up stones and I can use them as tools, right? What is common in all these three pictures? The hands. The hands were used for swinging from tree to tree. The same hands were used for picking up plants and eating them. Those same hands are being used for using stones as tools. And today, you and I, we are using those same hands to work our laptops, right? What has happened? The essence, the basics, the hands are the same. So what we have done is the functionality is the same. It's still the hands, but we have changed the trait of how those hands were used. And there's a word for it called exaptation. Exaptation is what? You see, we on the left side, you see the picture of the brain. There's a big brain, and that pinkish thing which you see is called the small brain. It is the small brain that sends the signals to each part of your body for its function. So that small brain is what changed. It it taught this creature to stop using those hands to swing from trees to tree and start using those hands to pull up plants and eat. right? And those same hands were now used for picking up fruits and berries and eating them. Those same hands are being used for picking up stones and making tools from them. Those same hands are being used today by you and me to work our laptop. In essence, like I said, we are not doing things different, we are doing them differently. Those same hands are being used for a different function. Institutions will try to preserve the problem to which they are the solution. This is Shirky's law. So if you remain in the old system, which was your Prince 2 and Waterfall and whatnot, yes, the institutions will try to preserve, but that is a problem because you are not able to progress as rapidly in that old system. And the institutions will go on trying to preserve that. You're preserving a problem. You're not finding a solution. Yeah. You think the institution is the solution. That's not. So what are the challenges? When I go into organizations, what challenges do I face? What do people ask? When I say, hey, we want to go agile, what is in their mind? What are the questions they ask? What are the doubts they have? What are the queries they have? So the challenge is, hey, I have seen agile is done differently, right? That's the first thing. I've seen agile done differently. What you're talking about is different and what I've seen is different. Yeah, I can understand to a degree. I can even agree that, yeah, what you're saying, sure, you've seen it, you've been seen it done differently, which is fine. Okay, that's fine. There's Mount Everest, right? You want to climb Mount Everest. How are you going to climb Mount Everest? You have a number of choices. Yeah, you can try, for example, the western slope. You can try the southern ascent. You can try the eastern side from Nepal, right? There's many ways to climb Mount Everest. There's not only one way, right? So whether it is Mount Everest or the Matterhorn or Kilimanjaro in Africa, there's many ways to climb a mountain. So you're quite right when you say, hey, I've seen it done differently. Yeah, sure. There are many ways to climb a mountain. All the ways up are different. All the ways down are the same. Heraclitus. So there are many ways to climb a mountain. There's only one way to fall down and break your neck. That's called waterfall. Right? So if you say there are different ways, yes, there are different ways. Like I just said, there are different ways to climb that mountain. You can choose the way which is the best for you. What is the easiest for you? What is the most convenient for you? What is the best way for you to climb that mountain? But then, are you listening? Because if you're not listening and you're not paying attention, it takes a bit of wisdom. It requires wisdom to understand wisdom, right? The music is nothing if the audience is deaf. So I hope you're listening to what I'm saying. The next challenge is, do we need a coach or a scrum master? Hey, why do we need a coach? Why do we need a scrum master? Why the hell are you here? Right. We were just discussing about mountains. And the first example I gave was Mount Everest. Can anybody here tell me who was the first person in the world to climb Mount Everest? Anybody?
Tenzing Norgay?
Nope, it was Sir Edmund Hillary.
Edmund Hillary.
Right? So the first person to climb Mount Everest was Edmund Hillary. Now you go onto the internet, you can go onto Google, you can pick up Sir Edmund Hillary's autobiography, you can pick up the narrative written by Jan Christensen. You can go anywhere, right? You can pick up any source, absolutely any source in the world. You can, like I said, go onto Google, go onto the internet, go onto wherever you want. And you will always see that when you look for a picture of Sir Edmund Hillary, you will never find him alone. That's what I found in Google. So, if you go on search, you will always find Sir Edmund Hillary, but you will never find him alone. Right next to him is what Vijay said, Tenzing Norgay, his Sherpa, right? And even in his autobiography, Sir Edmund Hillary has written that I could not have made the ascent to Everest without Tenzing Norgay, right? So what was it about Tenzing Norgay? For Edmund Hillary, it was an adventure. For Sir Edmund Hillary, it was, oh, I want to conquer Everest, right? What was it for Tenzing Norgay? Tenzing Norgay from Nepal comes from the tribe of Sherpas. Yeah, they're called Sherpa tribes. For them, climbing the mountains is not an adventure, it's a way of life, right? For them, to climb mountains is not hey, I'm doing something new. No, he climbs mountains every single bloody day because that's how he gets the food to put on the table for his wife and children. For them, it is a way of life, right? And that is why you need that coach, you need that scrum master. Because the guy who conquered Everest, Sir Edmund Hillary, as he has very clearly said in his own autobiography, I could not have done this without my Sherpa Tenzing Norgay. And therefore, if you ever search for who conquered Everest, you will never find Sir Edmund Hillary's name alone. It will always be Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay. In fact, as Vijay just said, he remembered Tenzing Norgay. He didn't remember Edmund Hillary. There you go. Vijay is an agile guy. He remembered the agile guy. Right? So you now know why you need an agile coach, why you need a scrum master. Because the greatest guy on the planet who conquered Mount Everest first, even he could not have done it without his coach, without his scrum master. Scrum is simple, but it's not easy, right? So let's dive a bit more into this. We saw how we studied a bit on evolution. We saw how evolution happened. We saw how, we're not doing things different. We're just doing it differently. It's the same functionality. We're just adding a new trait. Yeah, which was what exaptation was all about. We saw there's different ways to do it. Like we had used the example of climbing the mountains. You can climb a mountain in many ways, right? So it's all simple, but it's not easy. So what's the difference? So the next challenge people tell me is, hey, Scrum is good for simple things, not for complex projects. If you're doing something simple, oh yeah, Scrum will work. But hey, what about if I've got a very complex project? I say to them, hang on, what exactly do you mean by complex projects? So what is the difference there? The old system, you had empirical and defined processes. Now, if you look at this chart, yeah, this was by Ralph Stacey in 1996. On the vertical axis, at the bottom, you see close to agreement, close to certainty. And as you go diverge from those, on the left axis, on the vertical axis, you see far from agreement. On the horizontal axis, you see far from certainty. So what exactly does this mean? All of us people who are attending this session, one day we are all going to die. Yeah, you are going to die, I am going to die. That is a definitive. Death and taxes are a certainty. Yeah, there's nothing complicated about that. In that case, I can very well today define and describe, hey, when I die, I want to be buried in a coffin. I want, for example, an oak wood coffin with brass tabs and da 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 da, and I can define all that, right? But what happens if I don't know what's going to happen, right? So when you are close to agreement and close to certainty, yeah, then it is simple. Now, as you start diverging, as you get away from certainty and as you get away from agreement, it becomes a little complicated. And as you go further and further away, it becomes more complex. And the world is changing. You no longer have that certainty. You don't no longer have that agreement. So don't tell me, hey, it's all simple. It's not. It used to be once upon a time. It's no longer simple. We are having more complexity. And of course, we can go to the level of anarchy where nothing is certain and nothing is agreed upon. What we are seeing these days in America with Donald Trump is anarchy. Is anarchy, right? Let us talk about what difference does it make in our world, in the projects that we are looking at. So, what are the differences we see when we say we are not close to agreement and we are not close to certainty? So, what has happened? What has changed? If it's complex, go agile, right? So now let us see what has changed. Let us see the parameters and what was then and what is now. So, for example, the first I've taken here is technology. Yeah. Then it was stable. We knew what the technology is. We knew everything. Everything was, fixed kind of. And now it's always evolving. The pace of technology used to be predictable. It is no longer predictable. It's unpredictable, right? The good old days, we had limited number of languages. Okay, we had C and C++ and Python and da 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 da. And now you got 40 different languages. So it's all changed. The requirements used to be stable, and now even those requirements are evolving. It's no longer fixed. The view of requirements was a constraint, and now we have a degree of freedom. Useful information was available right at the start, and now information is arriving continuously. Every single day, you get new data, you get new information, you get new conditions. Everything is changing. Decisions used to be front loaded, they are continuous as well. Duration of task was predictable, it's no longer predictable. The work path was linear and unidirectional, it's now networked and recursive, and so on. I'm not going through the whole list, but you understand the parameters then and the parameters now. So, what is the difference? What is the difference between then and now? The difference is we used to live in a very deterministic world, and we now live in a very stochastic world. The world we used to live in was very determined. Everything was determined, everything was fixed, everything was certain. And now, nothing is certain, nothing is fixed, nothing is determined. Everything is changing, it's evolving continuously, it's evolving every day, it's evolving all the time. So we're no longer in that same old story, the same old situation, the same old parameters. Things have changed. We are no longer a deterministic world. We are a very, very, very stochastic world. Just the next challenge which I
Sid,
get is,
Sid,
yeah,
I have a question here. I'm so sorry to interrupt you,
no,
please.
please go on.
Okay. My question is like, when you're, especially when you're developing a complex project in the sense like, ERP package applications, okay,
Yeah,
how we can adopt the Agile?
okay.
I
I'll
mean, if you
come.
can
Yeah,
just
yeah,
give me, I mean, I don't want a detailed explanation because you have a lot of things to cover. If you can give me high level, that would be great.
yeah. Keep that for the last. I shall explain that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Remind me when we finish, and I shall explain. You just said about an ERP application. I will give you an example of SAP.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a not only SAP, any kind of a package applications. Like let me put it like that.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Okay.
I will address that. Let me
Oh,
finish this first.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So why don't you have an architect on the team? That's another question I get. Yeah. Your Scrum team has got a couple of front end developers, you got a couple of back end developers, you got a couple of interface guys, you got a QA guy and BA, and why don't you have an architect? Said you, and my response is, have you ever thought what an architect does? What is the activity of an architect? What exactly is an architect doing on the project? So think of it in real life. You're planning to make this building, right? And the architect gives you an idea that this is what I want it to be, this is what I wanted to look at. Yeah. And what you see on this construction is the scaffolding, right? So what is that scaffolding? The scaffolding is that Scrum team working. Is those developer, the back-end guy, the front-end guy, the interface guy, the QA guy, right? And what do? They make a floor, for example, the ground floor, yeah? And they call the architect. Hey, we made the ground floor. Is this what you were looking for? Is this okay? And the architect says yes. And the architect goes away. And they build the first floor. And they call back the architect and say, hey, now we built the first floor. Come and take a look. Is this fine? Is this what you were expecting? Is this what you're looking for? Does this match what your parameters were? And he says, yeah, and he goes away, and so on and so on. So floor by floor by floor. So you don't need the architect every single day. You need the architect to come and inspect, as we say in Agile, adapt, inspect, and adapt, is because you need that guy to come and inspect the work that you've done, which you have done as per his plans or as per his drawings. But it's not the architect who's going to make this building. It is you guys who's going to make the building. It's the team, it's the Scrum team that is going to prepare, that construct this building, not the architect. So you don't need the architect on the team because the team is working day to day. You're on a day-to-day basis. The architect is not involved on a day-to-day basis. So you don't need an architect on the team. You need him only when it's needed to come and inspect and then advise the team that, hey, this window you made is should be maybe 6 inches bigger than what you made, which is fine. We can do that. So you don't need an architect on a day-to-day basis. The next question I get is especially from the people who are from Prince2 and Waterfall world. Hey, what about long-term planning? I say, yeah. What about long-term planning? What do you mean long-term planning? Why do you want to do long-term planning? How do you think it'll work? We are today in 2020, we are in a COVID-19 situation, right? You want me to think about long-term planning. Next year, 2021, is that what we're talking about? If I think of 2021, then I say, okay, next year in 2021, I'm going to have a summer holiday. I'm going to take my wife and kids, and I'm going to go to Switzerland for a skiing holiday, right? And I planned for that. Like you say, long term planning. I've done a long term plan. Hey, next month of May or June, I'm going to take my wife and children, and I'm going to go to Switzerland. I'm going to Davos. I'm going to have lovely ski holiday there. Yeah. In the month of April, my son falls sick. What happens to my plan? He's gone out of the window. Now I can't go on the holiday because my son is not well. Right? Whether I like it or not, my wife likes it or not, my second son likes it or not, but my elder son has fallen ill. I can't go. So why make long-term plans when you can't be, we don't have certainty in these days? Like we said, we're away, getting more and more away from agreement, we're getting more and more away from certainty. It is much better to have short-term plans where we can be more certain about the outcomes rather than make long-term plans. Oh, this is what I'll do in May and June of 2021, I don't know what's going to happen at that time, right? So yes, we do plan, but we don't do long-term planning as in Prince 2 and Waterfall. We don't plan for something in the middle of next year. We plan, which is why we do stuff in iterations, in 2-week iterations, which we call sprints. And planning, I said, have you guys realized that Agile has more discipline or more planning than Prince 2 and Waterfall? Look at this. So we do a burn down chart, right? What is a burn down chart? Have you realized it? It's a daily report. I said in Prince 2 and Waterfall, did you ever have a daily report? The most you had was a weekly report. The Monday morning status report, which we used to do in Prince 2 and Waterfall. I said, we do a burn down chart, which is a daily report. Every single day, my stakeholders know where I am, what progress my team has made, what are, since yesterday and today, what are the differences, what have they achieved. So there's a daily report, right? And at the end of the sprint, the iteration, yeah, we have a show and tell. We call it a demo or a show and tell. We have a sprint review and da and we make a sprint review report from that. So you have a 2-weekly report from that. And then we have a release and you have a report from that. And we've done a bunch of features which make part of the product, right? And you have a report from that. And that feeds into the portfolio and that feeds into the strategy. Where did you have this in Prince 2 and Waterfall? You never had this. Agile is what gives you this detail. So don't tell me that, hey, we don't have planning and we don't have detail. We have a lot more discipline, a lot more detail, and a lot more planning than what used to be in Prince 2 and Waterfall. It's very different. So we have a lot of detail, we do have a lot of discipline, and we do have a lot of planning. So where's the IT project manager? Right? You spoke about all this. You spoke about, doing all these planning and detail and da-di-da-di-da. Where's the IT project manager? I said, well, Agile Scrum was invented by a chap called Jeff Sutherland. Right? And here's what he said for the project managers. So Jeff Sutherland, the CEO, he says, when I created Scrum, I specifically took all the responsibilities of the project manager. These guys have an 84% failure rate and distributed them between the product owner, Scrum master, and team. Some things were waste, like the Gantt charts that were left to us from World War I and never worked. A few things still belong to leadership. There is no project leader in Scrum, and if they are reinstalled, it is not Scrum. Some bastard child that reduces quality, delays projects, and demotivates teams.
Hey Roy, can you please?
Sure. So this is what Jeff Sutherland said. And he says, you don't need project managers. The role of the project manager got divided, split between the product owner and the Scrum Master. Right? We look at Agile. Now, this, of course, is from 2011. If you look at Agile and look at Waterfall, and you see the rates of success. So this was 2011 when Agile was pretty young. But in that time, 42% of Agile projects were successful, only 14% of Waterfall was successful. Right? Look at the failure rate. 9% of Agile projects failed, 29% of Waterfall projects failed. And challenged, 49% of Agile projects were challenged, 57% of Waterfall projects were challenged. So that is the difference between Agile and Waterfall. Now you'll say, oh, yeah. This was 2011, man. That was, 9 years ago. Okay, fine. Let's look at 2016. Just 4 years ago. Look at it here. all size of projects, right? Agile, the success was 39%, the waterfall was 11%. Large size project, again 18% agile success, 3% waterfall success. Medium size, and so on and so on. Where do you think the success is better? Where do you think the success is greater? Agile all the way. So there is no question, if we are going to go by statistics, that agile projects have proven to be more successful than waterfall projects. Why would you not want to be successful? Do you not want to be more successful? So what has happened? Like Jeff said, the IT project manager role was split between the Scrum Master, the product owner, and the budget planning and monitoring, which is still there. But the budget planning and monitoring is, we're going above that middle layer. That is closer to the C-suite layer. Because budget, who's handling the budget? The CFO. Who's handling the planning? What used to be the PMO, now we call it the Agile PMO. And who's doing the monitoring is again somebody at the top layer. So the middle layer is what is going to be replaced. Those IT project managers will become, some of them will become Scrum Master, some of them will become product owners. So back of the mind, the IT project manager is like, for example, it's about 7 years ago, when I was introducing Agile into Electro Components PLC, better known as RS Components, the world's biggest B2B portal. And when I went into that organization, the 52, believe me, 52 traditional Prince 2 certified project managers. And they were all out with AK-47s. Because nobody will say this on your face, but back of their mind, they're thinking, hey, if this guy called Sid comes in and brings in Agile, all fine and dandy, what's going to happen to my job? That is where you need to express to them, you're not going to lose your job. Some of you will become a Scrum Master, some of you will become a product owner. If you are inclined to become, if you're closer to the business, you become a product owner. If you're closer to the techies, to the guys on the ground, you become a Scrum Master. So you're not going to lose your job. Of course, you have to put it very politely, very nicely. As Agile grows, the IT PMs will disappear, right? As you can see on the bottom side, the IT PM role becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And these same guys will become more and more agile. So they will have an increase in the number of product owners, an increase in the number of Scrum Masters. And that is how Agile will progress. And as Agile progresses, what happens? What happened to release? Hey, what happened to release? You guys, all of you wearing a watch? Hello? Nobody's answering. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. If you look at your watch, right? And if you can look at your watch and time yourself for every 11 seconds. Vijay, can you do this on behalf of the group? And every 11 seconds, can you please snap your finger like this?
Oh, interesting. Okay. Every 11 seconds, you're saying.
Yeah.
Let me put it on my mobile so that I can put a timer and then I see that. Okay, start.
Just once or twice. We're just doing this as in,
Every 11 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one. Yeah.
Two.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers. Thank you. I just wanted to share how much time has passed between those two snaps. Yeah. When you do software development, what happens in Agile is as Agile grows, right? Like I said, we start at the bottom, we start at the grassroots levels, right? And then as we grow, you will flex your arms and you'll flex your elbows and it will grow sideways. So on one side, Agile grows into the business. On the other side, it grows into release, right? And as you progress in Agile and as you become more and more advanced and your Agile starts to spread, it starts going upwards. And it will cover HR and finance and operations right up to the CTO. We talked about release. We just got that example from Vijay. He snapped his fingers. This guy is Werner Vogels. Anybody heard of him? No. Werner Vogels is the CTO for Amazon. He's the CTO for Amazon. And the reason I asked Vijay to snap his fingers, Amazon does a release every 11 seconds. Every 11 seconds. Right? So don't talk to me about release. When these guys ask me, hey, what about release? I said, yeah, you used to do what? 1 release a year, 2 releases a year, 3 releases a year? You had a release every 4 months and you felt happy about it and you banged the drums and you called the band? This guy does a release every 11 seconds. And I'm talking about 2015, 16. As was at the Berlin Scrum gathering, I know Werner, so I met him there and I said, hey, Werner, how's things? And he said, I'm great. And I said, hey, I've heard you guys are doing a release every 11 seconds. Shh, 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 don't talk about it. He said, why? He said, it's really not true. Sometimes we get delayed and it becomes every 16 seconds. If my boss hears about it, I will be out of a job. Can you imagine? And this was 2016, yeah? Amazon was doing a release every 11 seconds. 2020, they are doing a release every 4 seconds. So what release cycle are you talking about? If you become agile, if you become really, really, truly agile, if you can become a Werner Vogels, you will be able to match that. Yeah. I'm not joking. If he can do it, why can't we? At least let us have the aspiration that if he can do a release every 11 seconds, can we do it at least every 11 days, 15 days, once a month? Let us start somewhere. Don't tell me about 3 releases a year and 4 releases a year when this guy is doing a release every 11 seconds. What are we talking about? Of course, Werner Vogels he's originally from Germany. He's a PhD in IT. But that is what this guy does in terms of release. And I really salute him. Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. So don't look at Agile coming in as a challenge. Oh, it's a storm. No, it'll get over. No, 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 no. It's about learning to dance in the rain. If we want to be agile, if we want to transform ourselves, then we need to learn how to dance in the rain and not be afraid of it.
I'd like to stop here. I'd like to say